Matt, welcome to the Boneyard podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Doing well, doing well.
I
I was
mean,
just thinking, I think it was 2020 because I remember when we recorded that last time, I was in like a tiny house in Denver, Colorado, or like not even like in the mountains. And I remember like just having terrible connection, but it was a blast.
Yeah.
yeah, I think I remember that. I think I remember you may have dropped out a couple of times during the call or something like that. But yeah, I mean, we've stayed in contact the whole time. I mean, podcasts in this conference have come and gone, and there's some you like, some you don't like, and we've always kind of had a connection. We got a similar type feel, but Tulsa, man, like what's going on out there? Feels like it's a lot of the same stuff that's going on here in Greenville.
Yeah, no, I would feel like what we've kind of felt like this year is probably what you guys are. We've got a new coach. We let Philip Montgomery go after finishing 5-7. I feel like he was the kind of guy that he would have one really good year if he had a really good quarterback. But outside of that, we were just going to be like average to above average. So moved on, brought in Kevin Wilson. And I will say the expectation this year was that we would go to a bowl game at best. Like we didn't view it as a rebuild. I don't think anybody really did. And yet here we are, 3-8, obviously in some sort of a rebuild as we are, not seeing the success or at least averageness that we kind of thought we would have.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's. Go ahead, Jared.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. This year we knew a lot of. Look, it's Mike Houston's fifth year at the helm, right? And we knew that there was going to be a lot of turnover, especially on the offense. And what we didn't know is how bad this offense was going to be. Like we are talking like sickos level, like grade 5, category 5. Get the Hurricane reference there. Bad. So you didn't expect it to be this bad in year 5 for Mike Houston.
Yeah, well, Tulsa's been kind of a pickup game for a lot of schools so far who haven't had a lot of offensive success. Like I look at the Charlotte game, Charlotte blew up against us, which was really disappointing to have happen. But Tulsa's defense, we knew it was going to be a step down. We lost some of our big names, or like some of our top contributors transferred last year, and we had a couple guys come in from we had Simon and Smith, although those guys have not really lived up to, I think, the expectations that we had. The one transfer that we had come in that has been good is Ben Kapinski. But all in all, like our defense is just, I think we are second worst in the conference in terms of points against. I think UAB is the only one that's lower than us. But, it was a weird situation. I don't know if you got, I doubt you were following anything with the Tulsa news and stuff in the spring, but we had a defensive coordinator from Duke who then left 2 weeks, 3 weeks after he got hired and went to Indiana to be the defensive coordinator. So then we didn't end up getting a new one until early May. We got Mike Polizzi from Tennessee Martin, who had some success, but that's pretty late to get a defensive coordinator from the FCS level up. So yeah, just definitely a step down there. And like on the offensive side, really thought we were going to have some talent. Braylon Braxton was coming back. He had kind of blown up a little bit at the end of last year after Davis Brin went out. And man, he has just regressed a ton this year. Regression, injuries. It's just been brutal.
Yeah. And, Matt, talking about the season, because obviously, it's been disappointing for both our squads. But what has been, maybe like kind of one of the few bright spots for Tulsa, if any, that has happened throughout the course of the season?
Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet or, like a bummer that one of our bright spots has been kind of the two freshman quarterbacks that have stepped up. Braylon Braxton was knocked out of the season opener on the second drive. Had an ankle injury that ended up lasting for, like 6 weeks. And in came Cardell Williams, redshirt freshman, kind of lit up Arkansas Pine Bluff, had some, we then went against a gauntlet in Washington and OU, which was brutal for a freshman quarterback. But he was also looking good until he got injured. He's been battling a couple wrist injuries. So in steps fifth string walk-on quarterback Kirk Francis, who has started his first game last week, but has seen like significant playing time since the Charlotte game. So Charlotte, Tulane, and now North Texas. And he's looking really good. I feel like he's probably been our just pure passer that we've seen so far this year. Cardell is probably the most electric playmaker when he's on. And so, when we kind of started to get in the feeling of, what can we look for next year? What are we kind of, watching this Tulsa team to kind of see what's next year going to be like, since this year is is what it is. And I think it's those two guys. So I'll be honest, I don't know who's starting. Kevin Wilson is very coy about the quarterback situation. The depth chart lists, the depth chart lists Braylon Braxton or Kirk Francis. If that's the case, it's going to be Kirk Francis, I think. It's been pretty obvious when we've seen Braxton kind of come into these games, they do not trust him to throw the ball. I think he'll come in, and if he's coming in, it's going to be some designed run package for the quarterback. But Kirk Francis is probably going to be, starting QB this Saturday.
Sound familiar, Artie? Yeah, I mean that's kind of how we've been seeing this season, right? Like Alex Flynn has kind of been the guy that throws the ball. He's got a little more confidence throwing the ball, even though he's not very good at it. And then Mason Garcia is the one that runs the ball. And I mean, I feel like we haven't seen Mason Garcia play in 4 or 5 weeks.
So
I mean, one of the second highest rated recruit all time at ECU.
Yeah.
Been in the program 3 or 4 years now, and riding the bench behind basically some no name that came in. Still hasn't produced.
Because I was looking, I saw he hadn't played since I think it was the Charlotte game in October, and so I was like, oh, he must be injured, but no, he's just sitting on the bench.
And just not giving us the best shot at winning. That's all that is.
I mean, this is the worst offense that I've ever seen. Like, what's crazy to me is ECU has, I believe they're the 37th. They're a top 30, top 40 ranked defense in the country. Yeah. And they're the 128th ranked offense in the country. So it's going to be it's going to be an ugly game on Saturday.
Ugly, eat some low scoring.
Yeah. So talk to me.
The under is take the under.
It sounds like Tulsa's had trouble quite a bit with stopping offenses at times. What's kind of been the role or the issue with the defense?
Yeah, so again, injuries has kind of been brutal. One of our top, our defensive edge, Owen Ostrowski, has just been battling shoulder, elbow injury all season. So that's kind of knocked him out a couple times. So we've had, again, walk-ons playing significant minutes in the linebacker and on the line. And then, Tulsa has kind of historically been pretty successful in the corner and the safety positions. Not the case this year. Our corners, we've got J.C. Oliver, Kanian Williams. These guys are, like, after that, there's really not a lot. So we get beat a lot on the outside, and we get beat a lot on the inside. I think any quarterback that can just throw a good slant, will just chew up yards against us. We saw Michael Penix did it. He absolutely destroyed us when we played Washington. And Warner at Temple was kind of doing it, although fortunately he threw a couple picks, which was really helpful. But yeah, it's kind of been like, just we're not very good about stopping the pass, and we're not very good about stopping a no huddle 2-minute type offense. I think Rice did it, Charlotte did it, and they scored with less than a minute left, on the clock to the half. So stuff like that, we just kind of, if our defense is out there too much, they're just going to break eventually. That's just kind of what we've seen. Like we stuck with North Texas. North Texas has a really good offense. We kind of kept it close going into half. It was tied at 21, but at that point, we just could not keep them from, the end zone. So,
well, I got good news for you. ECU can't sustain drives. So, I mean,
whatsoever.
Several 3-and-outs. So
that is what Tulsa does primarily. I think we run the ball once, we throw it deep, we throw it short, and then we punt. So,
yep. Wow. The Sickos community, I'm telling you, get ready.
It's going to be prime Sickos game. Ryan, my co-host, we were talking about this game, a couple weeks ago, because we were kind of looking at the schedule. At the time we had Charlotte, Tulane, UNT, and this game coming up, and we're like, all right, like, there's competitive games, but they're not competitive for the good reason. Like, they're not strong teams. So we were just talking about this is a vibes game. It's just kind of like who's feeling good. That team will win.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And I want to ask you about the offseason, right? I mean, like, kind of, because the outcome of this game, sadly, it doesn't really matter for either team. So, kind of looking towards the offseason, what are some things Tulsa needs to do right away that you think they could do this offseason to kind of help their team improve for next year?
Yeah. Immediately, I think you give Kirk Francis a scholarship. Make sure that he is not transferring, going somewhere else. He's a local kid. He went to high school in Tulsa. So, that's good, because in Tulsa, if you are a local kid, that draws a ton of fans. And if there's one thing that TU, as the smallest D1 school, will always struggle with, it's drawing in like fan base from the community. So that's one. But also, you got to figure out what quarterbacks you're keeping. Somebody's going to transfer, whether it be Braylon, whether it be Cardell. I kind of think that we're hoping to keep Cardell and Kirk Francis for next year, and then we'll see what's there. But right now, the other positive, and I think the thing that has a lot of people not panicking yet, there are some that think that we should just blow up the whole thing and that Kevin Wilson should be let go after 1 year, which seems a little irrational. You got to let them kind of build their system. But Tulsa's probably this is the highest recruiting class that Tulsa has had in a decade more, I think since 2009. I think right now we're 5th in the conference, just based on, rivals 24/7, whatever you're looking at. So, that's pretty significant. If we can, get the talent in to build up the system, I think that's really what is going to change. The other thing is, I think we just we've got to hit the transfer portal on defense. We need to get some guys, some bigger guys, some taller cornerbacks, things like that. And then, yeah, I mean, that's really what it is. It just seemed like our guys just haven't been able to keep up as much as they have in the past. And one thing that I'll talk about, and Philip Montgomery was incredible at kind of developing the players that we had. Like, you look at guys we've had, back-to-back first-round picks, Zaven Collins, Tyler Smith. These are guys that came in with very little, hype. Zaven Collins only got an offer from Tulsa. Now he's playing for the Cardinals. Yeah. But, like, Philip Montgomery was really good about taking these guys and making them studs. Don't think that's the case with Kevin Wilson. I don't think his strength lies in developing the players. I think we're going to require better players on the recruiting path to kind of do it. So, I think it's just keep that up. Hopefully it's tough. The recruiting kind of takes a hit when you go 3-8, potentially 3-9, at best 4-8. So, just gotta.
Hey, I mean,
guys that we have.
It can get better, I promise. ECU's got the number 1 recruiting class right now in the conference, and we shouldn't. We honestly shouldn't have it. But I want to, Matt. I want to go back to 2020. I want to go back to that game, Halloween weekend. I was about to come through my TV screen and land in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I have no recollection of this fumble.
Well, it was the fumble. It was like a tackle.
It was like a string of 3,
There
4, 5 different plays.
There was
went against ECU.
3 or 4. I mean, Artie and I played golf the next day, and I'll never forget coming back out to my car and finally looking at my phone. I had to blow off some steam, and I looked at my phone, and it was a letter from the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Oresko, enemy of the podcast, saying our officials fucked up. Good job, Mike. Good one. Your thoughts on that game, that ending, one of the craziest endings that I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, Tulsa definitely caught a break with all of that. I mean, that was already such a weird year. I kind of my view is somebody decided, not saying the conference or anything like that, football gods, what be it. Tulsa had 4 straight losing seasons and was going to have a couple more after this 2020 season. They're like, all right, COVID, weird year. It's just something's got to happen. So that's how I view it. But no, Tulsa got bailed out because, like one of those calls going your way on a, okay, but like to have what happened in every single one just come out Tulsa, yeah, it's a little definitely fortuitous for us. But I'm not gonna say I wish it had been called right because we ended up going to the title game and almost beat Cincinnati. Just lost.
I forgot that.
Yeah,
I forgot y'all went to the conference championship game that year.
Yeah, and this is kind of a what if situation, but we play Cincinnati in the rain. We end up. This is so situation that Cincinnati canceled the game against us in the regular season, so we didn't get to play them at home. And because of that, we ended up having to play them in Cincinnati for the title game instead of potentially at Tulsa had we beat them. Yeah. So, that's the thing that Tulsa fans like really latch onto from that season. But we end up losing that game by a field goal in the rain. And as a result, Cincinnati goes and loses the Peach Bowl to Georgia. But had they lost that game and not gone to the Peach Bowl, they're probably not ranked going into, their playoff season. And so, an American Athletic Conference team has got to be ranked for 2 seasons before they can get the playoffs with, the 4-team format. So I just think, Tulsa could have ended that run or prevented it, but
I mean, looking back at that year, that like you said, it was such a weird year, but I mean, ECU just could not catch a break. I mean, they lost, I believe, I think they lost on a last-second field goal to Navy, or it was a close game against Navy. Mason Garcia ended up having to play that game because Whole Nailers had a false positive and tested positive. It was a false positive, but still had to sit out. I think you beat Navy with Whole Nailers. There's some other games that got canceled, and it was just a shitty year.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I mean, your bowl game got canceled that year, right? Because
that we didn't make a bowl game 2020. We ended up going like 3-6 or something like that. Year. And then the next year we finally got bowl eligible, 7-5.
Boston
and then
College snubbed us.
I will say, Matt, the biggest episode that we've ever put out is our shit list episode against Boston College.
Yeah, we went in on Boston College.
I mean, we've got like 2,000 or 3,000 listens on that podcast alone.
Damn.
Like, I mean, we typically do pretty good numbers, but like that podcast, and every once in a while I'll see like, oh, that episode has like 2 or 3 more listens. So somebody's going back and rage listening to us talking about Boston College. And yeah, I mean, that was, we just talked for an hour and a half. We've still got Boston College fans in our mentions.
Love it.
Over that game. Suck on those tears, Boston College. But yeah, I mean, it sucks sometimes being an ECU fan.
Sometimes?
Yeah. No, I feel you guys there. I mean, it's life as a Tulsa fan is always just kind of, it's an uphill battle because, we are such a small school. There's tons of FCS teams that are bigger than us. But, it kind of, we thought, well, and I think Tulsa's administration has kind of taken it to another level in terms of their commitment to athletics. And so that's kind of why the expectations around the program are a little bit higher than they previously were. I think COVID just really wrecked both basketball and football in terms of like attendance got destroyed and hasn't really bounced back. Granted, we went 5-25 in basketball last year, so that's definitely was a
Hey, but you're 4-0 right now.
We are, yeah. No, I mean, we've got 10 new players, so it's an entirely new team compared to last year. But
yeah,
I always feel like there's like Tulsa and ECU both have. It seems like they've had plenty of opportunity to kind of take that next step and take over the reins of the conference at times. Where like if just one thing went their way, just like I mean last year with Tulane took advantage of some things. It goes their way. They've carried that momentum into this year, right? Like ended up winning the conference in baseball or the conference tournament in baseball. Like those things build upon each other, right? And an athletic department gets that momentum. I feel like Tulsa and ECU are kind of right in that same position. Like, okay, you just need one of the two big sports to get that momentum going for the rest of the university.
Yeah, nope, totally agree.
Now, you said something that I thought was interesting. Is this true? Is it true that Tulsa is the smallest FBS school or Division I school?
Yeah.
Wow, yep. I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, our enrollment, so undergrad is under 4,000. It's 3,700 total. You throw in the entire.
It's a public university, right?
No, it's a private university.
It is private.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you throw total is probably around 4,500 students. So, I mean, it is a tiny school. And, we are competing for fans, for players, for anything like that against the OU, Oklahoma States, Texas, Arkansas. I mean, that's all right in our front door. So, it is not like Tulsa punches above their weight class for the kind of university that we are. But, that inherently does have some issues. If the oil market is not doing so well, Tulsa doesn't have as many donors that are willing to give money to the school, and that definitely hurts. So it's like weird things like that. But yeah, no, smallest school. But it's a point of pride to be, to still have an FBS program. That's part of the reason that I ended up picking TU, back when I was in high school. My co-host, same reason. So newspaper people in Tulsa have talked about they should drop, and I think that would just absolutely kill the school if Tulsa lost like D1 football.
Now let me ask you this real quick, because I did not know they were the smallest FBS school. That's the first for me. But let's say all the cards fall right for Tulsa, right, and they get ranked really, really, really good football season. What is that atmosphere like? Like what is the fan base atmosphere like around a good Tulsa football team?
Yeah, no, it can be electric. Like I think about, end of Conference USA days. So like 2011, 2012, which is unfortunately right before I came to school. We were really bad when I was a freshman in 2013. But, there was a ton, like we end up you draw in those local fans who, Tulsa's a pretty big city. And so if you have a good program, you're going to get a lot of people who want to watch winning football. And so it can definitely be up there. I think it's going to need consistent winning to get there. I don't think a single season of a ranked, Tulsa team. Now, if we're talking Tulsa has a chance for the playoff, like this 12 team, if we end up winning the American in a couple of years, and, I think the winner of the American has a huge chance of going to this expanded playoff, then, maybe that's different. But I think it'll be some sustained success that will require it, just because, I mean, on a given Saturday, people are going to go to Norman, Oklahoma to watch OU, or they're going to go to Stillwater to watch OSU. So we got to prove that we are just as fun, and, beating one of them would definitely help. So that's kind of.
Yeah. I mean, I am looking back. I'm looking back before you got there was a game in 2010, East Carolina, Tulsa. Do you know which game I'm talking about?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I feel like 2008 is the one that I think about in the conference championship. So remind me.
Yeah, so that game, let's see, Tulsa 29, ECU like 24. In the fourth quarter, going into the fourth quarter, both teams scored. Tulsa scored 20 points. ECU scored 27 points in the fourth quarter for a final score of 51-49. And ECU won on a Hail Mary. Yeah, so fun stuff. That's one. It was an instant classic, and that fans of East Carolina will remember for a very long time.
Yeah, so that's got to be Todd Graham years, which, if you talk about Tulsa had an incredible offense, it was Todd Graham. Dude is a huge asshole. Ended up leaving Tulsa for Arizona State, got fired there, went to Hawaii, got fired from Hawaii for essentially abusing players, stuff like that. So no, but what he was really good at was scoring a lot of points, especially quarterback G.J. Kinney at the time, who is now the head coach at Texas State, which is kind of frustrating because he was in the final round of candidates for the head coaching job. And so it's definitely hurts to see how successful Texas State has been.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a 33-yard touchdown pass from Dominique Davis to Justin Jones. Yeah. Just looking at this game, I've gone through and watched this game several times on replay just because it feels like a fun game. I wish I could have been there. That was before my ECU days, but yeah. Well, Matt, we'll let you go, but real quick, I mean, final thoughts on ECU Tulsa this weekend. I think I don't even know what the over-under is. I think it's like 43.
Take the under.
Which is insane to me.
That seems high. Yeah, I know you guys are favored by 3.5. I think I saw.
Well, that line's moved like 4 points in ECU's direction over the since Sunday.
It's got to be quarterback situation, just because. I mean, we are starting a freshman. And granted, he is like one of the few quarterbacks that has a positive touchdown to interception ratio on our team. We've had a lot of turnovers this year. I expect we'll have some more turnovers, especially against your guys' defense. I think there will not be a lot of offense on either side. It's kind of what it sounds like. Probably going to be a slow. Do you know, is it going to rain? Because I would probably.
No, it's going to be perfect football weather for November. Cloudy, high of 50. So it's not going to be raining, but it's going to be chilly, but it's not going to be cold.
Okay.
Perfect football weather.
We have played like 4 games in the rain this year. And each one of them, we scored fewer points than we had in the previous rain game. So I'm just glad that's not the case. No, I think it'll be a low scoring affair. And as I say that means it'll probably be a shootout, just because it's, weird. Tulsa always plays weird games, but yeah, I don't expect a very exciting game, to be honest.
Neither do we.
Neither do we. Yeah, well, Matt, thank you for joining us on the Boneyard podcast. Go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find you and your content.
Yeah, so you can find us on the artist formerly known as Twitter at the Golden Hurricast. We tend to do a podcast roughly once a week, so you can Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever. Taking a holiday hiatus right now. We've also got our website, goldenhurricast.com. Sometimes we do some writing. Really, it's just a way to find our podcast again. So,
nice.
For sure, we got to get something going with the rest of the conference podcast. I know that there's been some things like here and there, and we've talked, we got to get something going. Like, there's too many good podcasts in this conference to not have people collaborating.
Yeah, no, totally. I think some sort of, even if it's an unofficial network, something like that, I think would be fun because especially I feel like a lot of these new schools that came in, some of them have some established podcasts. I think UTSA is one of them. It's got a pretty big one. So those are definitely some guys that I've wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
What's that? Alamo Audible. We had Jared from them on.
Yeah, and we talked to some. I feel bad because I can't remember off the top of my head, but we talked to some guys from Rice over the summer. So yeah, it's definitely some good shows out there, and here for
Yeah,
it.
we'll keep talking. We'll keep talking. There's I got a lot of ideas for different kind of content. So we'll talk. We'll talk, Matt. Thank you again for joining us. Best of luck in the off season. We're not playing for anything this weekend. Grab your popcorn, grab a beer, and just enjoy a Saturday, man.
Maybe a couple beers.
Yeah, I mean, leftover turkey, some stuffing, dressing. There you go. All right, Matt. Have a good one.
Appreciate it, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah.